Okay, well, namaste everyone. I'm not sure, where did this come from? Oh, Banks brought it. Okay, well, I'm a little bit worried if Banks brought any gifts to the studio. Let's, I guess, maybe check out the games here really quickly. Okay, yep, definitely proof this is from Banks because it has basic bitch simulator as he likes to play his games in his Ugg boots and his pumpkin spice latte. But anyways, everyone, welcome to the world of esports. But everyone, welcome to this edition here of World of Esports. We're gonna be talking about one thing in particular. It's gonna be about ESL One Mumbai, the Dota 2 event that just finished off in India just this last weekend. We're taking a look at, of course, both groups, Group A and B, and of course, how the playoffs and the finals went down, and eventually who was our victor. More importantly though, we got a chance to sit and talk with Team Signify to do a little bit of a profile about the team. More importantly, getting to play a nice little game of this or that with them. Guys, you know you can finish playing your Barbie's Wild Adventure another time, right? Hey, can you get the f out of the studio? Stop laughing, get the f out of here. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me go for you first, because you're lighter. Oh shit, oh f. Well, there goes my microphone and there goes the shot, but you know what? We're gonna play with it. We're gonna continue the show here as we're taking a look at Group A and of course the highlights of what went down. We had Team there, you had Na'Vi there, Complexity, TNC Predator, a lot of teams trying to prepare for the upcoming major. We're gonna find out who came through the bracket, who came through the group, most importantly, as the top team.
How excited were you before ESL One Mumbai? We certainly couldn't wait to see some action during the first such Dota 2 event in India. And when the group stage finally came around, it was time to jump into the fray. Everything began in Group A, where we could witness David taking on Goliath himself. Team, formed in September 2018, clashed with Natus Vincere, one of the most decorated teams in Dota 2. However, with their in-game leader going inactive just days before the tournament, and with Misha as their stand-in, Na'Vi was put in a pretty bad spot. Nevertheless, they started off pretty well, taking control of the early game and then maintaining it through the mid-game. However, after a devastating teamfight around the 25th minute mark, tides turned and Team gained the upper hand, which they then used to ultimately secure their first game.
Okay, but still, GG is called. Team. We didn't think they had it for the late game, but a couple of very well executed fights.
And despite a valiant defense coming from Na'Vi in the second game, Team maintained their momentum and after over 75 minutes, won their second game and the first match of the day.
The GG is called. Team have done it. Eternal Envy rat tactics at their best.
Meanwhile, in the second duel of Group A, recent World Electronic Sports Games 2018 champions and one of Mumbai's favorites, TNC Predator, took on Complexity Gaming, maintaining constant advantage throughout the Game 1. But not everything went according to plan in Game 2, where Complexity was able to stop the Philippine team's advance. Too bad it didn't last long enough, as soon TNC Predator was back on their tracks, and after a pretty much one-sided game, won their first match 2-1.
Light Striker race stolen by Tims. They find themselves everybody, and it doesn't matter they lost the tier 3. TNC is just like, end this game.
This meant that we would see the Asian team fight against Team in a duel that would determine who takes the first spot in the playoffs upper bracket. And despite the odds favoring TNC Predator, the young American roster once again proved to be a force to be reckoned with. And after a rough start, managed to take both games, thus advancing into playoffs with a clean 2-0 match balance.
Did you doubt that you were going to win all these games? Was there ever a moment in those series where you thought, oh yeah, we lost this one?
Yeah, I think when I woke up, I was like, today's going to be awful. We thought we were going to take Na'Vi down, but then we thought TNC was going to be really hard. But then those games actually ended up being way easier.
But everything was not done yet, as Na'Vi, after a shocking defeat from the hands of Team, sought revenge and began their battle against Complexity with only one goal in mind. In the beginning, Adam and his crew dealt some serious damage to their opponents. However, despite all that, Natus Vincere didn't give up their advantage, and in the end managed to not only secure Game 1, but also Game 2, meaning that with the 0-4 record, Complexity had to join the lower playoffs bracket. And the boys from Na'Vi were not done yet, as afterwards they managed to beat TNC Predator in their group's decider match. Even though the Asian team rolled over the CIS roster during Game 1, that barely lasted 20 minutes. Later, it was all about Magical and his mates, which ultimately led to their 2-1 victory and a well-earned spot in the upper bracket. And to sum things up, let's have a look at Group A's final standings, which might not look like you might have expected.
So one of my favorite parts when it comes to doing events in other countries is bringing in a team from the home country to let them play in front of the crowd, let them play against some of the top teams in the world. And that's what happened with Team Signify, the first big event coming into this, playing against some of the best teams in the world. We had a chance to sit down and talk to them about how the event was and how it was actually leading up to it, and of course how it felt to play it in front of their home crowd.
We started Signify around July of 2017. It basically started because we were trying to put a team that could compete in Southeast Asia, and we wanted to base the team out of India. So I knew Mr. Crowley for a long time. He was an old friend of mine. So basically started with him, and then we kind of eventually went on to get some of the best talent in India.
No such pressure, but it feels good to be playing in front of the home crowd because it's my hometown and like home crowd, and obviously people are cheering for Signify.
It actually boosts your confidence because whenever you kill someone, there's a lot of people chanting your team name and stuff, so it boosts a lot of confidence.
India has a very strong Dota 2 community, and a lot of fans and a lot of support comes to us from all these from the community, and we take pride in representing the country. We want to do well for the community. We want to give them something to cheer for, something to look up to, something to be proud of.
It feels great, honestly, because we never expected to get so much support from the community. We usually do get, but the amount of people that came here to watch the game and the way they cheered us, it was really great, and we're very happy that it happened.
Basically, we're a new team, and we bring something new to the table every time. In the sense, we try to imitate strategies, and we try to learn from teams that we look up to, and that gives us a lot of freedom. That gives us a lot of opportunity to explore new stuff in the game, because expectations are low and we can always experiment. Right now our goal is to qualify for a minor from Southeast Asia and eventually go up from there towards majors and then eventually to TI.
Qualify consistently to events like this and hopefully get to a minor or something.
Long term would obviously be one of the best teams in the world, but there's a long way to go for that. We understand that we're a new team, we have a lot to learn, and so we try to focus more on the short term and see how it goes from there. The team revolves a lot around friendship since we've known each other for a long time, and I think the fact that we keep trying and keep trying to get better at the game and eventually do well in the Southeast Asian region, it's entirely because we are good friends and we have a lot of faith in each other.
We now know all the teams that will participate in the upcoming Intel Extreme Masters in Sydney, which will kick off on April 30th. The Australian Team Chiefs have joined the lineup after taking down Breakaway 3-0 in the grand finals of the IEM Sydney Derby, and will represent the land down under together with Renegades and Dick Stacey, or Greyhound Gaming. And with 16 teams in total, the event will surely be chock full of surprises. Ninja was recently named one of Time Magazine's top 100 most influential people in the world, and he said he was insanely honored and speechless to be named one of those people. is what Tyler Ninja Blevins had to say after being selected for this year's edition of this prestigious list. Ninja's appearance on the list is a result of him being nominated by Juju Smith-Schuster, I swear that is actually his name, whom later said that Ninja was unquestioned best in the world at his craft, something I had so much respect for both as an athlete and of course as a fan. Now he will single-handedly blending gaming culture and pop culture together. It's not a surprise that Virtus Pro have recently been lacking when it comes to good results. Oof, a little harsh there. But this doesn't mean that they are not trying to improve the situation. That's why the organization has recently announced the signing of Eric Veggie Navoyski. So hard to say Polish last names, I'm sorry, from Pact. Veggie will replace Tao, whom has been playing as VP's in-game leader till the end of March before being benched and replaced by Snacks as in-game leader. So early on in the show, we did obviously take a look at Group A and saw who made it through in the winner bracket, or the upper side of the bracket, and the lower side of the bracket. Now it's time to move into Group B. Now I'm hearing last week Banksy was on the show. Unfortunately, I apologize, I had to miss out, I was at an event. And he predicted who would go through Group B. Now the correct thing you would do in this situation is go completely against what he predicted. However, I guess even a broken clock is right twice in a day. So let's take a look at Group B and see how it went down.
Did you think that only Group A had some exciting matches coming your way? Well, sit back and enjoy as we show you what exactly went down during Group B at ESL One Mumbai 2019. Our journey begins with the battle between Keen Gaming and Signify, the only Indian team at the tournament. This would be their first such big tournament, but their Chinese opponents wouldn't make it a walk in the park. That's why, despite having an advantage during the first few minutes, Signify was then quickly pushed back and ultimately defeated in Game 1. In Game 2, Signify tried to fight back, but the Chinese team was already unreachable for them. And after a game that lasted barely 20 minutes, Keen Gaming won their first match in Mumbai 2-0. Another one-sided match happened between Mineski and the Pango. After a rather disappointing run during the last international, being knocked out during the playoffs in Katowice and recent roster changes, Mineski had a lot to prove and did not disappoint during their first match, earning an easy 2-0 victory over the Pango. However, during the next fight, Mineski ran into a wall built by Keen Gaming, and despite their best efforts, were not able to break through it. After beating Signify, the Chinese roster showed everyone why they are considered one of the tournament's favorites and easily took Game 1.
But nonetheless, it's going to be massive buybacks. The Lion also bought back in this instant. Ajit is eventually going to fall.
But Game 2 wasn't as smooth as they would hope, and Mineski were really trying to push back. And at one point, were really close to pulling it off.
Black hole, it's easy as pie, but they are going to be able to get the battle trance off as they try and take down one. But this troll is eventually going to die as they do find that kill.
But a lost team fight around the 35th minute buried their hopes, meaning that Keen Gaming would be Group B's first upper bracket team. But the fate of the other teams was still to be revealed, and the first ones to fight for it were the Pango and Signify. The Indian roster's defeat against Keen Gaming wasn't a surprise, but unfortunately their CIS opponents were also too big of a challenge. The Pango managed to win after 2 swift games, pretty much dominating every aspect of them, and as a result, sent Signify to the lower bracket with a 0-4 match record. This meant that only Mineski stood in their way to the playoffs upper bracket, and the Pango surely wouldn't waste such a chance. But Mineski is one of Asia's leading teams for a reason, and they've quickly showed everyone that they won't be pushed around, taking Game 1 after a rather balanced fight. However, in Game 2, things surely turned around for the CIS team, which after some struggles managed to come out on top and tie the series 1-1.
Try and fight this out. Naive comes forward, does manage to catch Ninja Boogie. He managed to get back to the fountain, no, turns around, a beautiful stun, but finally with the Juggernaut dying for good.
Everything could happen at this point, but in the end, Mineski emerged victorious, thus joining Keen Gaming in the upper bracket of the playoffs. And with Febby also having a message.
I have one message for Twitch chat.
Oh, please.
Alright, so I'm kicked from Mineski, so I need to look for a team, but I don't have a card to look around for any good team, so yes, please.
And this also meant that Group B's final standings were hardly a surprise.
In this week's social media section, I bet people out there have always wondered, what would I Am Sydney look like if it was an 80s sitcom? Well, luckily for you, we have that answer. Everyone out there knows that he's a ladies' man. He's ravishing, he's good looking, it's Thorin, but he gives some insight into why Team Liquid CSGO roster is also so good with the ladies. So everyone knows that Dota 2 always seems to have the most active players when it comes to Steam charts. But last week was ESL Mumbai, and also it was a holiday. It was the 20th of April, which is obviously a holiday. But could it really stop everyone from playing? Yes, it did. So with our group stage now done, with Team, Na'Vi, Keen Gaming, and Mineski all making their way through into the upper part of the bracket, the question now came down to, could they keep that momentum up throughout the playoffs and potentially make their way through into the finals? Let's take a look.
With the group stage done and dusted, it was now time to see which team would lift the trophy of ESL One Mumbai. But despite the fact that all of the teams competing in the group stage made it into the playoffs, the road to the final was still quite long. Everything started in the upper bracket with the duel between Na'Vi and Keen Gaming. Apparently, the CIS region representatives really took themselves seriously after their struggle with Team in Group A. As during their first game, they not only managed to stop the Chinese team's advance, but also dragged it to a positive conclusion. And even though Keen Gaming took Game 2 without breaking a sweat, ultimately Na'Vi persevered and were now only one step away from the grand final. And they didn't have to wait long for their next opponent, as during the second game of the day, Mineski once again proved that the recent roster changes were not that big of a deal, and after two rather one-sided games, sent Team straight into the lower bracket, where despite fighting valiantly, this North American roster ultimately ran out of luck and had to submit to TNC Predator's aggression.
Be a great obvious flash. What is stolen? He's pulling it back into Tim. And it's Ravage. He's pushing forward. The Sun's on into Eternal Envy. He cannot die. You shove it. The black hole. 3 times. And then run. Catching 3 of his own. There goes Team down the drain.
Turns out their bumpy ride during the group stage helped the Asian team find the same flame they showed during WESG. Too bad that in the process they also had to send home Signify. But despite leaving the tournament with an 0-6 record, Signify were still able to play in front of their own crowd, which is certainly something to be proud of. As for TNC Predator, however, their advance was brutally stopped by Keen Gaming, which after dealing with the Pango, finally got their revenge on the Philippine roster for the WESG finals in China.
The glimpse pulls back Tim's into the middle of Keen Gaming. Just be 3 euros down. He won't even get denied by the neutral. Not that that would have mattered much.
Now, the only thing that stood in Keen Gaming's way before reaching the grand final was Natus Vincer, who earlier lost their upper bracket final to Mineski. Yes, Na'Vi had their close moments and their second game even lasted over an hour, but in the end, Febby and his ex-crew managed to end it.
Second map was amazing. What went wrong in the third one?
I think we lost the draft and got outplayed some default Dota things. We knew that the third map gonna be fast. It's always in those best of threes. It's like you play a 70-minute game and then next one gonna be stomp, and we knew that.
I feel they were very predictable, knowing that they had success beating us in game 2 with the Wraith King. We already had talks on how to deal with it. You know, that's why we prioritized Wyvern instead of Oracle, and then we thought of Omni Knight and it went really well, and we just won the lanes very hard. Nana had this fire in him. He was very angry and upset with game 2, so I think he owned mid pretty hard.
That's why, despite their best efforts to stop Keen Gaming's onslaught and 2 almost hour-long games, the CIS region representatives failed and had to end their journey in Mumbai after a 0-2 defeat.
Oh, Chicken doesn't get a damn about your fountain. Look at him standing inside of your base. Call GG, Na'Vi. It's over.
And that's how Keen Gaming would face Mineski in the grand final.
So I know it's been a long road over the course of this episode with looking at Group A, Group B, and of course the playoffs, but now it's time. We have Keen Gaming up against Mineski in the grand finals of the ESL One Mumbai Dota 2 event. So let's find who took out that trophy. Who took it out? Who took it home? I don't know, maybe they took it out. Maybe they took it to dinner. We'll see.
As the audience filled the NSCI Dome and took their seats, 2 teams were eager to go on stage and bring a conclusion to India's largest and first ever Dota 2 mega event. The battle for the title and the $135,000 grand prize would be contested by Group B rivals Mineski, coming in from the upper bracket, and Keen Gaming, who had to fight their way through the lower bracket after a loss to Na'Vi early on. The two teams had previously met in their group, where Keen Gaming took down Mineski convincingly, and the best-of-5 grand final kicked off in similar fashion. Game 1 saw the two teams initially staying close in terms of net worth, with Mineski enjoying a slight lead by taking down Keen Spectre and Mix Assassin early on. Keen Gaming weren't too, well, keen about that, and made sure to make things difficult for Mineski.
But look at the triumvirate of wards they placed around the Roche pit.
They're going to try and cancel this TP. Then the damage is so fast into Kaka. They may be able to actually get the skill. KP strike, but look at the damage reduction and the Echo Slam. They've got enough. The Ravage connects over on 3. Maybe not when KP is able to begin his TP out. All they try to do is hold him there. Oh, of course not. There is already a Yule Scepter over on the Razor. Triple kill for Yi.
And 11 bagged himself a triple kill before Keen closed out Game 1.
This game looks like it's done and dusted. Flykin can move around to try and kill off Old Chicken, but with the fissure, it doesn't create enough space. They just go in deeper. The Echo Slam from Febby is stylish, but it ain't good enough. Old Chicken has a triple kill. They may give him more. GG is called. Keen Gaming will take Game 1 of this grand final.
Coming hot off the back of a defeat in Game 1, Mineski tried some early aggression as they took down a handful of Keen's heroes. But once again, Keen Gaming were just waiting for the right moment in order to strike.
KP turns on the Song of the Siren, but Old 11 as well as Yi, they can just fight through their BKBs. So the TP, KP knows he cannot get it off. He needs to move back out. The curse is out. Razor was starting to steal some of the damage, and Ember Spirit, Old Chicken in the back lines. It's a perfect searing chain. It's already a double kill. The Sun's combining with the Chain Frost. Febby can't do anything. He can't even get the Echo Slam off. It was a sinister gaze that cancelled it. Maybe Moon has enough damage. No, he doesn't. He'll pop as well. Even in the Wukong's command, the buyback had to be expended to get this advantage back in. KP will finally die, giving Yi that ultra kill onto the Razor.
And Keen kept pushing Mineski. And finally, Mineski crumbled, conceding Game 2 to Keen Gaming. There wasn't much left for Mineski to try and salvage, as Keen Gaming looked unstoppable throughout the grand final.
He's just bouncing around the top. Now they see the silencer. There's your opportunity, but he can't get close enough. The blink deck keeps getting put on cooldown, and the global has been used, but the back wall combination, way too good. Side blade slice through everyone. Jump down south. You can kill the bounty hunter as well. And Mineski, they're more than on the ropes. They've been waiting for some level of opportunity, and they'll continue to wait until maybe the next ESL.
What a statement game from Keen.
It took less than 3 hours for Keen Gaming to secure their best-of-5 grand final win in Mumbai, and they did it with a powerhouse finish. Mineski's Febby was, however, crowned the Mercedes-Benz MVP by community voting, which meant that the South Korean stand-in managed to make his own mark in India.
Take your trophy, Febby.
Congratulations on winning the MVP. You said on the stage that you feel like you didn't deserve it.
Yeah, I don't think I deserve this at all. We got 3-0 in the grand final, so I feel like the MVP should have been on the other team.
What went wrong in the final?
I just feel like we got out-strategized like all 3 games. We had an idea coming in the game, and it was completely like we thought about it wrong, I guess. Yeah.
In the end, though, it was all Keen Gaming. They may have taken the long route to the final, but they made short work of Mineski, as the Chinese roster can now call themselves champions of ESL One Mumbai 2019.
So that's going to do it for our episode here of World of Esports, where we did get to cover ESL One Mumbai over in India for Dota 2. Make sure to tweet to us with the hashtag World of Esports and let us know anything you want us to look at in the future. And of course, make sure to subscribe and like the channel as well. I've been Jason Kaplan. Thanks for watching, and well played.